Welcome to the Picky Girl Travels podcast, the show for Black women who want more out of life and to live it as they see fit. The message here is all about defying convention, embracing adventure, and regretting nothing. My name is Delia Borishade, your host, and today's episode is a little extra special. Two former guests will be joining us today. They've both been on the show individually, but I've never gotten to talk with them together. They're both two of my favorite people and are doing a whole lot toward helping Black women live the life that they've always wanted, living life on their own terms. I am talking about the co-founders of Exodus Summit, Rashida Dow and Stephanie Perry. Together, these ladies have founded and put on the preeminent event for Black women who want to move abroad, take a sabbatical, travel long term. If you have never heard of Exodus Summit, I don't know where you've been, but luckily for you, you are listening to this episode, and so you are in for a treat. Okay, ladies, I've talked about the two of you, like the team, the wonder team that is Exodus Summit, that is Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow. But can you tell the people a little bit about, what you do outside of Exodus Summit?
Sure. I'll go first. I'm Stephanie Perry. I'm a house sitter. I have a product or a program called House Sitter School that has helped quite a few Black women in the world get started house sitting and seeing the world that way, getting some free accommodation to see the world or like their own city. And that's the biggest thing that I do outside of Exodus Summit. I'm also working on a book, which is hard, and I don't want to talk about it.
Hi, I am Rashida Dow. I am a career break coach. I help women leave jobs that don't serve them or deserve them to bop around the world, stay home, but take time off. Whatever they want to do in that free time, I help them find it, find the time, find the money, plan the time, plan the experience. And it is the thing that brings the most joy to my life because I don't think people should have to work if they don't want to work. Personally. So yeah, I like getting people free from that.
I think that's in essence what you all do and why Exodus Summit is the shining star that it is. Y'all are in the business of freedom. Y'all are in the business of getting Black women free. And I think about what that means to be free and like what that means for me now versus if somebody had asked me that, let's say 9 years ago. And so you both took time off, in case somebody is watching this and is unfamiliar with your stories. You both took time off about a year to travel the world, not to work, and you lived off of savings. And I am curious about when you made that decision to take that trip, to take that sabbatical. Were you thinking then about freedom? Because for Stephanie, for you, what was that, like 2014, 2015?
2015. No, I just wanted to see the world. I just wanted to travel. I wasn't thinking about any bigger picture. I had no plan for the sabbatical to lead to anything other than getting some amazing selfies in Thailand. So no, it just happened, right? Freedom was a bonus.
And for me, I don't know if I'm sort of rewriting history, but I think I was on like the verge of a mental breakdown, right? Like I was laid off, and what most people do in that situation, and what I did before when I was laid off, was like spend that time desperately worried and looking for work. And for me, it was like, I should it on myself a bit in that moment, but I should be doing that. But baby, I might snap at the next job, right? If I have to go straight back into doing the same thing for somebody else, like I don't know that I have this in me. And so I knew I needed a break, but I didn't know that freedom in the sense that I live it now even existed back then. Like it wasn't even a concept that had ever run through my mind. So this is new to me. I took my break in 2018. So my life has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. And this has all been new to me. So
Was there a plan after the sabbatical?
my plan was
Like,
to go back and do the same
I
thing.
guess I'm thinking, and again, this is me in 2023. I now know that sabbaticals are like the gateway. They open you up to like a whole new way of looking at the world, a whole new way of thinking. But was there a plan other than, okay, I'm going to take this time off, I'm going to see the world, I'm going to get some bomb ass selfies, and then I'll get another job?
Another job, just like the last job, another apartment like the last apartment, you know, maybe another relationship like the last relationship, but hopefully not. Right? Like I could not conceptualize not doing the same thing I had been doing, just with like a minor tweak here or a minor tweak there, even though the same thing I'd been doing is what led me to the point of needing a break, of feeling like,
Yes,
I can't show up to these people's face another day because some man's gonna say something to me and I'm just going to walk out, or I'm gonna disrespect him. And I don't know which one it's gonna be. Like that's where I was as an employee, and where I know a lot of people are too. And so while I know that's what I was experiencing in the moment, I had no thought besides doing it again for somebody else. Like there was no, what are the other doors? Right? I didn't know career breaks were gateways, and that we could manufacture the lives we wanted to live instead of what we had been taught we needed or told we needed for our whole lives.
What about you, Adelia? Were you on a freedom quest when you started, when you left for Honduras, or were you on your own freedom?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Like Rashida, and probably like you, Stephanie, I had no concept of the kind of freedom that I could have, that it was even possible for me. But I was on a freedom journey to a certain degree before I moved to Honduras. I was trying to think if that was the final step or if that was a midway point, because the first thing I did was give free that man, because I was similar to Rashida. Like, if I keep doing this, somebody's gonna have to call the cops to identify a body. And I decided that man wasn't worth going to jail over. So I needed to leave. And so that started it. I got free there. And I think when you get to a place where you start like looking and asking yourself, like, is this what I want to do? How do I want to do these things? You start asking yourself some questions. And the release I got there was so great. I was like, what else in my life ain't making me feel good that I can rid myself up? And the job was the next thing to go. Unlike y'all, there was no sabbatical. There was no, I'm going to travel around the world. It was, I can't do this anymore. If I need to work at Starbucks, I will just do that. And then I ended up going to Honduras. And so, Adelia of 2014 could not even fathom the life that Adelia in 2023 lives.
Do you ever think back about that? Do you take time to acknowledge that? Sometimes I have to stop and tell myself, listen at your complaint. Listen at your complaint. You're mad this Airbnb's fork tines are bent up. You're in Palm Springs for the summer, like without without putting out a whole lot of cash. Do you remember that, or do you have to actively remember?
I try to remember, and it does hit me every now and then. Probably the most recent, somebody was in town visiting, and we were talking about something. And I said, well, really the only time I use an alarm is to make sure I wake up from my nap. And she was like, now that's a soft life flex right there. And I hadn't really considered, like, girl, you live a life now that you don't have an alarm at all, and that you nap whenever you want. Like, and in that moment, I was like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Rashida's really good at reminding me of things. She'll be like, do you hear what you just said? One time I was like, yeah, Costa Rica residency, you just have to put $60,000 in the bank in Costa Rica, and then you have to spend it over you can spend it over the course of the year. They let you take $2,500 out a month, but that is a pathway to residency. And she said, and I was like, I'll just do that. And she was like, do you hear yourself?
I was 60,000 in the bank, and I was like, this is not you 10 years ago, is it? Not you 5 years ago, is it? Mm-mm.
Not at all. Not at all. I paid for dinner not too long ago with my parents, and they damn near cried because I had the money and the ability to do it. It was just dinner. I mean, seriously, they were like, okay. Because they remember when, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the most recent moment like that was having my granddaughter come visit, and like, I was able to pay. I was like, go make the appointment for the passport. Don't worry, I'll send you the money. And then I booked the flights and all of that. And I was like, look at me, this little girl from the hood,
Mm-hmm.
out here doing things like this. Again, not a life I could have imagined. Part of the reason that we are all in the space that we're in is, one, because we had some time, we had some freedom. I eventually did take a career break, really, and I credit you, Stephanie Perry, because it wouldn't have even been a thing that I thought I could do had I not already been following you on IG and had been seeing your post about your adult gap year. Because when I was in Honduras and they needed to restructure some things financially, they really couldn't afford me in a non-teaching position. And so they came back and was like, hey, we want you to keep doing the job you're doing, but we also want you to be the entire history department for the high school. And we don't have any money to pay you anything extra. And in that moment, I didn't even have to hesitate with, oh, okay, thank you, but no, thank you. And I did not immediately go look for a job. And Adelia, from just a few years before that, would have been thinking, I got to find a job. I got to start applying, because this was also after recruitment season was over. So it was going to be a slog anyway. And I was just like, okay, no, I guess I'm moving to Mexico City for at least for a year, and I'll just hang out. Um, so I'm wondering, that then, of course, opened up some things. Stephanie, you work for yourself. Rashida, you work for yourself. I work for myself. Prior to this version of your life, had you even considered being a business owner?
No. So my dad was a person who always just could make money whenever. He always had a career, right? But he made money selling houses and cars and stuff. And so I knew that it was a possibility, but I just didn't have an interest. It wasn't like I didn't know that I could do something to make money away from a job, but it wasn't something that I was interested in. I had no experience with it of my own.
I had, but we never talked about this. I had, but not in a way that would like pay any bills, right? Like I had like snack money. I had a company that made snack money back right after college. So the idea that I can be my own boss, work the hours I want, live the life I want to, and still make as much or more money as like doing it the right way, right? Like that was kind of wild to me that was a possibility. I never thought it could be. So seeing this happen in this moment of my life is wild. Also, not to put too much business of my mom's in the streets, is that when I saw her be a business owner and have businesses that run a partnership, have I ever told you this, Stephanie? My mom had a partnership that failed dramatically and like life changing failed. And the idea, like, one of her partners ran off with some money. And like the idea that like you could work with someone and trust someone to build a business with, and then they're doing shady stuff in the book, you don't know about it. Um, that has always impacted me in some way. So now being in a partnership is kind of weird to me because it's like, oh, Stephanie's like, I think there's a bit of healing that it took for me to get here. Like, Stephanie's not going to run off with the money, right? And I can trust that that's not necessarily what's going to happen in business. My mom had some businesses that she like struggled in, in that the work never seemed to match the payoff. And so to be in a business where I don't feel like I'm struggling is also kind of wild to me because like that's we're told all the time, especially in school. Like entrepreneurship is a thing, but like we're told that like you work for someone and they pay you and life is good and you buy a house and two cars and you feed all the kids. And it's like, it's not true, but they haven't stopped teaching us that, right? Like they haven't stopped telling us, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's always supposed to be like, I want to be a lawyer or like a doctor or an astronaut, right? But all of those, none of those jobs are things you can do. Some of those jobs you can do on, like you can lawyer on your own, I guess, but like I'm not interested. But like you're not. So doctoring on your, those things are all things. Even if you're doing them on your own, there's still this like governing body over you that likes to sprinkle a little bit of like some of the supremacies over your head, right? Like there's always that like oversight in that doesn't allow you to kind of create freely and do things freely, which is necessary for some people, but other people who don't need that can flourish without without those constraints. And so being in a business where I don't have any oversight, the only oversight is my customers, right? Like if they don't like it, I don't eat, right? And doing that in a way that like with a business partner that I love and that I trust, and with um, clients, customers, community that I love being with is not something I even knew was possible, right? You go to school, you get a job. I didn't know that this aspect of business was possible in a way that could be fulfilling and profitable. I think those are the things that I didn't know could go together.
I've never had any interest in being an entrepreneur because I didn't see it. I think now more likely people frame it as a way to get some freedom, location freedom, time freedom, even financial freedom. I never saw it that way. I just saw it as a lot of work, and it didn't really interest me. And I really enjoyed getting a regular paycheck.
Mhm.
I'm kind of here, I guess, because my desires for control over my time outweigh everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when I was in my second contract in China and I was trying to make some travel plans. And I remember saying out loud, this job is getting in the way of how I want to live my life. And so I said, okay, that means this job has to go. I didn't have a plan immediately for how I was going to eat,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, okay, it very simple. And I don't know that I would have been so eager to throw the job away had I not taken a year off and done absolutely nothing and gotten to the point that I was like, if I want another job, I could find one, but I don't think I want another one. But um, yeah, so I I feel like you, Rashida, would be more inclined to be like have your own business, being from the islands, because y'all be having like 15 jobs.
I listen, and that's the thing. I went into my interview to get licensed to be a lawyer. Like I had to tap dance to this man I've never seen before in my life. And like he was immediately antagonistic. Like, why are you smiling? There's nothing funny. And I'm like, I'm not laughing. I'm smiling at you in an interview that decides whether the last 3 years of my life we're a waste or not. Like, okay, you're like the gatekeeper. So I'm literally just smiling at you. But he was like, it says here that you had 4 jobs at the same time. This is not possible. Why are you lying to us? And I was like, oh, y'all really don't be doing this. Like no, he said you had 3 jobs and you were in college. And I was like, yeah, that's not possible. There's no way this happened. And I was like, the fact that your brain can't even fathom that a woman who quite frequently would go to an ATM on a Friday evening and not have $20 to take out, go to the bar and get a drink, might work multiple jobs at the same time. The fact that like you can't fathom this, and we're supposed to be in this system where we're all equal, right? And like your brain tells you I'm lying because there's no way I was in school and working multiple jobs. Maybe I had to eat and I didn't have a scholarship. Like what did you? But I think that was a point for me where it was like, oh no, we work too hard. Like his brain can't even like grasp the concept of what a lot of us have to do to get by. And so immediately I'm a liar. Instead of like, I live a life that you not only do not understand, you're making no attempt to understand. And so I think that I am the kind of person that will work multiple jobs, but only if I'm starving, right? Like I have money to go to the club. I could not get snacks. I went to the ATM and Wells Fargo was like, girl, you ain't got it. Baby, you do not have nothing. So like, yes, I work more, but now, like if I have food to eat, I'm gonna work a little less hard. That's where I am in my life right now. Like if I don't need it, I'm not working for it. I'm not one of those people that's like, I need to accumulate the piles and piles and piles, and I need to make, 6 figures every month because I don't know what the end goal is of that. Or like if your end goal is to buy a pyramid in the jungle and you need that, I get it, right? But if the end goal, you see Stephanie, she went from pony. She went from pony to pyramid real quick. I saw it in her eye. But yeah, like if what is the end goal of working ourselves to death? What are you going to do with it? And a lot of people are like, oh, I want to pass it down to my kids. I want to do this. And in a sense, and someone's gonna comment and be like, she don't know what she's talking about. But in a sense, I'm privileged to not have children that I need to think about in that way, right? I don't need to think about leaving a legacy for you because you don't exist. Hello, condoms, thank you. But the idea that like you're going to work really, really hard. And for a lot of Americans, that means past the point of comfort into the point of dis-ease and disease and like the stress that is breaking your body down in order to pass things down to our children doesn't make sense, especially in an economy where what you're passing down to your children ain't gonna be nothing when they get it. You might have, 6 bags of cash today, but they're not gonna be able to buy a stick of gum with that by the time they get it. Like, so you might as well spend your 6 bags of cash today is my theory on it. But I'm very much at the point of, yes, I have been the person that has worked multiple jobs at once, but out of desperation, not out of like desire to be a hardworking contributor to society. I had rent to pay. Like, that was it. What about you, Stephanie? Multiple jobs at a time?
Only if I had a very short-term goal that I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I'm taking that back. I never did. I used to consider overtime a second job. There were times I would work overtime like it was a second job, like I have to put in these hours.
Okay.
But I've never worked multiple jobs because, listen, I just couldn't do it. And my goal has always been to live with my parents. Listen, I've always been a person who every time I've been out on my own, I'm like, how soon before I can move back home? And so
did they know that?
Yes, it was our family joke. Like, here she comes. Every now and then I'd pull back in the driveway with all of my stuff. Right? Okay. Thanks for, helping me look for this other place to live. It was cute. I'm over it. So I had a lot of special, I had a lot of privileges. Like my parents fed and clothed me more than the average adult, and not clothed, fed and housed me more than the average adult got to experience. But it was never like, I never had a drive to do a whole lot. I was never the person who was going to do and achieve and do a whole lot of stuff. You know, what is the simplest, easiest way for me to make it through the week, the month?
My big thing was I wanted to be free. You're talking about like always looking for a way back into your parents' house. I remember looking for apartments when I was 12 or 13 because I was like, I need to understand how much they cost. So I understand what kind of job I need to get as soon as I'm old enough to get a job. I got my first job at 15, so I could be free. Now, some people work and they're like striving for accomplishments and all that kind of stuff. And I was never that person. Although I did struggle with that because larger American culture tells you that's what you're supposed to want. Black excellence tells you that's what you're supposed to want. You are supposed to want to, come in first, achieve this, compete with these people. I've never been competitive, all of that sort of thing. But I'm listening at y'all is making me think like freedom has always been
Okay.
a thing. I guess I didn't know how to get it in a system that isn't trying to help us get free. So it's like swimming upstream, I guess.
Yeah, you said freedom was your goal, and I think mine was just survival, right? Like I started working when I was 12. I did not have any time off between 12 and the summer I took the bar, which wasn't really time off because I had to pass this test, or the last years of my life were a waste, or you know what I mean? I had to do it again. I had to pass this test, or I had to study and do it again, and that was more time without working. The 6 months I took that time off, and then the 6 months after I got laid off and I was looking for a new job were the only times off I had. So that was a year between 12 and when I took my career break at 38. 38, about to be 39. Yes. That was like it's all I knew, right? Like I hope she never hears this, but like there are a lot of ways in which like I didn't really have a childhood, or like my childhood isn't what you expect from a lot of people. And so for me, and I think there are a lot of other people like me who don't necessarily know any other way, the idea that like I am actively selecting to not work. And now that I've taken this break, the idea of going back to work feels so oppressive because we've been oppressed with this our whole life. Like it's just like that there's been that like force pushing down on us the whole life. Since I was 12, if I wanted something, I had to have the money for it. And so I joke all the time, like when I'm talking to my people, my community, that like I like money, and it's true because like I had to. Money is important to me, and this is your little past trauma coming back up to like raise this ugly head. But if I wanted to run track, I had to work to get money to buy track shoes, right? So like the hard work wasn't necessarily for freedom. It was like to do any of the things I want to do, I need money, and the way to get money is to do what society has been telling me to do my whole life, which is get a job, stay at the job. It doesn't matter how they treat you. Just continue moving forward in this path. And like clocking out feels good. Clocking out and saying, this isn't a healthy choice for anyone, but it's definitely not healthy for me, felt really, really good.
I asked a group of people the other day, because none of the people in this group work a traditional job. And I said, could you go do that again? Nobody was like, oh, yeah, I'd go back to the career I had before. I'd go back to the job I had before. And so I do really wonder about how these things fit together. Like y'all announced that your summit, Exodus Summit this year, the theme is freedom 3 ways: time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. And I was wondering, because I guess arguably you could say I have time freedom. I make my own schedule. I don't have to be any place at a particular time. Uh, I have location freedom. I don't have to be in a particular place in the world unless I feel like it. And financial freedom in that, like, I can work if I want or if I don't. So I was trying to think which one of those came first for me, or which one was necessary for the other. And I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like it's all kind of wrapped up with each other, right? Like when I couldn't have taken my career break without a bit of financial freedom, but having time freedom and location freedom led to more financial freedom for me. And so it's just like I think what I see for most people is they grab little pieces of the three of them and make them then into a bigger pie of all three. But I don't think there's one. I don't think I could choose one of those as like the path to success, unless money freedom was like the money you need to buy a pyramid in the jungle, right? Like unless that's the kind of money, like if it's not like Bill Gates money, I don't know that you could hand it to me and say you don't have location freedom, you don't have time freedom, but here's this money freedom and it's enough. And without money, your time, I could not have money and sit in the house all day and not do anything. But that's not what I want to live my life, right? Same thing for location freedom. It's nice to be able to go where you want to go when you want to go there. And for so many of us, because eating is tied to working. Like we don't have a location freedom because your boss gets to tell you, can we pause for a second? Your boss gets to tell you too many things in America, right? Like mine used to tell me where we needed to live. Where we need to, not just like you need to be in this state, but like if you're not in this county, that's a problem for you. There's going to be some problems when it's snowing, and that's a you problem. You should live in this county. It's like where you need to live, what doctors you can see. Your job is telling you what healthcare you can get, right? Your job is telling you how you can spend your time. We've tied so much to work in America that like capitalism is everybody's daddy. I don't understand. And there's no path out besides I don't think you can decouple yourself from capitalism totally, unless like you're living a pretty fringe life, but doing the best you can, right? To separate yourself, if not from capitalism itself, but from valuing the ideals that keeps capitalism flowing is the way to freedom, right? More than like looking at any of the aspects, I think it really is a mindset change that you need in order to say I yes, I need money flowing in. Well, some people don't, but like if you need money flowing in, how can you do this in a way that everything isn't tied? Your whole life isn't defined by the way in which you have money flowing in. And that's where I think the overall freedom comes from.
I actually have a favorite freedom. Have not being not a financially free person yet, being a person who still needs to earn money to live, right? I think that the time freedom is my favorite. It gives you so much of a chance to figure out the other things, right? I think time freedom is what I had first, and so maybe that's why. But it gives you the chance to figure out other stuff. We don't know what's possible until we start thinking about it, taking some time where your time is not dedicated to some other job or some other person or some other thing. Having some serious, significant time as a grown-up changes everything. And so I it's my favorite. It may not work. It may not be possible without some of a little bit of financial freedom and a little bit of location freedom, right? I can't picture it without some of that. But it can help you do a little better in the other freedoms.
Well, I mean, when you all took your years off, you had some money saved up. That was not like permanent financial freedom, but having that cushion gave you the space where you didn't have to think about how am I going to eat. And there's this meme going around that, it's very interesting that the people who don't have to worry about working, one of the first things they do is create art. Like if you can eliminate that, how am I going to eat? How am I
Mhm.
going to feed myself? The space that people get, all of a sudden, folks who were not creative before are creative. When you have that time off, um, you can imagine a life that is so wildly and completely different than the one that you've lived so far. You didn't even know it existed. Like, think about that. Had I not taken that year off, um, and just gone to another job, would I have ever got, other than just get to the point of like, I just am so burnt out, I can't work anymore? Would I have even entertained the thought of, oh, I don't want a job that tells me I have to be in this place at this time. I wonder.
That whole reimagining thing that we started off talking about, that it's it's beyond what the person who's listening right now, the women who are listening right now, the reimagining thing, it's going to happen to you beyond what you even expect.
Mhm.
Even if you do know some women who took some time and were able to reimagine their lives, right? What's going to happen for you is going to be mind blowing, because we just are stuck in, like, we're like a needle going around a
Mhm.
record. We're just stuck in the groove. You don't know, like,
Yeah.
you can play a different track on the record. You don't even need to play a record, right? Like, the whole process of reimagining, we undervalue it, but we also benefit from it in such an
Mhm.
amazing
And to Stephanie's point earlier, on my break, about 6 months into my break, I knew that I could not have anyone tell me I was late for work ever again in my life. Like, I
way.
just not gonna, I couldn't have anyone tell me when I could and could not go on vacation again ever again in my life. And so this is an element of time freedom, because I had this time freedom. I didn't feel financially free, right? And so I knew I needed money to come in. I did not fully grasp that I was location free, but knowing, experiencing time freedom and the ways in which that I saw work manifest in other societies and other countries. Um, but experiencing that time freedom, to Stephanie's point, I'll give you credit for this one. There
Favorite.
was, it was the time freedom that had me say, no, 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 I can't go back to a job,
Yeah.
right? I know I need money, so I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will absolutely not be applying. My friends are sending me these jobs, and I need to tell you to stop. I'm not going to be, I'm not coming to work with you. I'm so sorry. Love you. I'm not doing this. And part of that was, a lot of us, I am a lawyer based in the US. There's a very high chance I was going to have to go back and live in America to continue my career. Um, and so the idea of having to go back into a job in America, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get over this hurdle. But now that I've experienced the freedom of not having to do that, and of not having anyone ever, I don't have to answer to anyone about my time, what I do, who I talk. It's truly like being untethered, right? I feel like my career break was the first time where it was like, if I want to wake up and go back to sleep, it's not even that, because I've done that before, like at work, but you got to call in sick. You got to do this. You got to give an explanation. You got to clear all the meetings from your calendar. You got to apologize. No, the idea that like I can just do this and there's no one I have to explain my life to in this moment was completely new for me.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, the biggest eye opener for me. Like I didn't know that a life existed where like the Sunday night scaries, but I just pulled up in the parking lot, but I got to sit in my car for like 10 more minutes because I don't want to walk inside this building. Like those moments didn't exist for me anymore. And I don't think we realize how much they're taking away from the experience that you get to have on this earth.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to it. If you're living that life, you're so used to it. I never thought freedom was a possibility because I didn't know what freedom looked like because I wasn't seeing people model freedom. I was seeing rich people on yachts, right? But what America tells you is that that is accessible for them, but it's never going to be accessible for you. So now go work for them and make them money so they can go have fun on their yachts.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always this gap between like, freedom is only accessible for the very wealthy or the very irresponsible, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the only free people, the very, very irresponsible and poor, or responsible and wealthy, right? Is what we're taught. And those are the only people who get to experience freedom. But the rest of us in the middle are in these boxes, and you must stay in your box, or you're not going to be responsible and wealthy. You're going to be irresponsible and poor if you don't stay in this box that society has created for you. And so realizing that like that is a capitalistic lie, and like we have other choices, is something I did not do when I was in the box. I could not see outside of the box. And so taking my career break, bopping around, talking to other women, other Black women who were like Stephanie, who were doing, like meeting you, Adelia, who were doing the same thing, similar things. That's what let me know that like, oh yeah, like maybe I don't see a lot of people doing it, but I don't need to see a lot of people doing it to do it myself. If I know it's possible, like 1 or 2 examples is enough, right? I don't need to see a whole, I don't need to see 20,000 people do it. I only need to see like 1 or 2 and know, but like, oh, if she can do that, I can do that. Yeah. I'm very much that person though. I'm very much like, if that person can do it, I can do it too. I'm sure I can walk on the moon. Get me up there, dog. Like, I'm good, right? Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. If a human can do it, I think I can do it. And so seeing other women do it in the different ways made it really possible. And I want to say one more thing, and I've been talking, but one of the things Stephanie and I have been talking about as we're planning this year's summit is making sure we find women who take away the excuses. Because while I'm the kind of person that says, if another person can do it, I can do it too. Mm-hmm. I know that the other side of that, and I fall into the other side of this too. I'm not saying that I'm free from it. The other side of doing it is looking at someone doing it and saying, okay, but here's the reason I can't do that. Like, here's the reason I'm not losing this belly fat. Cause like she ain't got none, but I do, because, right? Like we're different, right? She has this and that.
Joe Gelato is within walking distance.
I can't say no to the foods I want. Otherwise, I would have a flat belly too, right? Like we see people doing things we want to do. And one of the first, our instinct a lot of times is to say, oh, but she's different from me. She has different experiences. She has different resources. She has different support. So she can do that. But here's why it's not going to work for me. And so it's weird because we go into Exodus and we're like, okay, like we need, like, this is the speaker we want, or a topic we want covered. But we really want a woman that like is super relatable, and that women aren't going to look at and say, oh yeah, but she's an outlier. Because even though that's your brain lying to you, we listen to the lies our brains tell us, right? We're locked in with our brain and the lies it tells us. So we're always trying to find women and saying like, how can we find a woman that like is relatable? And we don't want one that not every Black woman is going to relate to one Black woman, right? But we want someone that people aren't going to be able to say, oh yeah, well, she started on third base, so that's not a big deal that she did it, right? Or like people say all the time, like, oh, you're a lawyer, it's not a big deal that you took off. And I'm like, no, it's
ask a lawyer.
Maybe that almost killed me, right? Like, so it's looking at what women have achieved, what people have achieved, and saying, okay, they did it, so it's possible. So how can I do it too? Is life changing compared to they did it, but we're not similar.
That's
right? These are the reasons I can't, even though she did it. So a human can do it. Here are 6 reasons why it'll never happen for me. That's not going to get you where you want to go, right? And like we're never going to find any speaker that every single attendee is going to say, I see myself in her 100%.
Right.
And so if she did it, I know I can do it too. There's always going to be someone of an audience saying, well, she's different from me. And I really want us to work on that part of the mindset, on like the idea that I can walk on the moon. I've seen those men. I saw John Glenn in person one time. I bumped into him. My bad. He's like my height, right? Like you can do it. I can do it. What are we talking about?
Not counting yourself out it works in the entrepreneurial space. It's a really helpful thing to be able to not count yourself out, right? It also helps in the move abroad or sabbatical or nomad space. Like in the world of I want to live a little bit differently, you have to be able to not count yourself out. Don't give yourself what is it called? The red card in soccer. Don't give yourself the red card, right? Don't decide. You don't decide why it's not going to work.
Right.
You have to be able to give yourself find the advantages that you have. It works in the business world. It works in the move abroad world. It's a really helpful skill to have.
A concern of mine is that a lot of the folks on the internet are telling everybody, like, you need to open a business, you need to open a business. And there are some people for whom that is not the right choice.
Yes.
And I worry about those people. But thinking about a recent guest on the podcast, Malika, who achieved financial freedom, continues to go to work. But it was the security of knowing the minute these people say something I don't like, or this is no longer fun, I can walk away. And she got there not by having her own business. So I don't know. I think I was worrying about nothing.
We don't have a focus on entrepreneurship, right? We don't, our focus is on you doing as little as possible. And that's not entrepreneurship for most of us, right? As much as I love not doing stuff, I have to do stuff to make money in a business. So no, our focus, we do hope that the women who come to the summit who don't yet know that they're financially free will learn, right? Or have they, right? That is a thing that we hope that transformation that will happen in quite a few women. Because in all 3 of our coaching businesses individually, we've seen that happen. A Black woman will come in, look at the numbers and realize, oh, I ain't got to do no more work. I'm done with the job. So we do have that happening in the summit this year. But the summit is not come and learn how to run a business. Last year, we did have quite a few sessions on things that would be considered entrepreneurship. But that was just last year. This year is more about, it really is about the freedom. It really is about defining what freedom is for you, because it depends on what financial freedom means to you. You know, what your next step is or how long you have until you reach that point. So defining what financial freedom or location freedom or time freedom means to you, why they matter to you. But we're not talking about how to start a business, I promise. Don't worry. We want you to do as little as possible. We have Octavia Rahim coming to literally rest with our women and us, right? She's coming literally to lead us in a rest workshop, in a rest session. This is not a how to do all of the things and strive and achieve and achieve. This is a how to do less so that you can live and connect with yourself.
And I think that overall, Exodus Summit isn't really about the more, as Stephanie said, right? It's not about making more money. It's not about having more things. It's like, what can you release from your life today to live the life you want? Because honestly, that's the easier, for me, that's letting go of something is easier than getting more of something else, right? Right? Like leaving America and lowering my expenses is easier than arguing with my boss about why they weren't paying me enough. right? Like that's easier. It's a choice, right? And so to Stephanie's point, we don't necessarily want all women to be entrepreneurs. I mean, I want you to leave your job, but I'm not like leave your job and start a business. I'm like, leave your job and take a nap, right? Like, leave that job does not deserve you. Stop showing up or show up and do the absolute, not even like, I don't believe in quiet quitting. I believe in like quietly doing absolutely nothing. Like, give them dust, right? And collect a paycheck. They're not, they don't even notice, do they? They don't even notice. But the idea that we can let that go, right? You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to work a lot. You can just say, I have reached a point where I have worked enough. I have enough money. I'm going to figure out how to take this pot of money I have and live with it. Is an interesting it's an interesting practice to do, right? Like, I'm gonna just do this little exercise. In real life, what I hear from most women is, I took a break, but I'm scared because there's no money coming in. The idea that there's no money coming in is scary. And that's why I think a lot of women start the business, do the thing, because they're like, I can't go back to work. Like, I couldn't go back to work. But the idea of living on what I have, because that capitalism is so like, they shot it directly into our brains, right? The idea that what you have is never enough unless you have enough to feed like 20 countries and you're not doing it. Unless you got clean water money, but you want to spend it, going into space. It's never enough for us commoners. And so we feel like there has to be a flow of money coming in. So even the people that are financially independent, they have freedom. A lot of them are going to become entrepreneurs because it's like, even if I'm not making money, I feel like I should be doing something to try to make money.
You two are very responsible women. Did you have a panic attack when there was no money coming in on your respective sabbaticals?
No. I think partially mine is I don't want to say it's a cheat, but I took a 60% pay cut to go to Honduras. So I was already getting by with a whole lot less. So it wasn't that big of a jump to be like, okay, well, there's no money coming in. Now, when like my fund money got low, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? There needs to be more of this money. What are you going to do? And I don't know. Again, I think the thing that drives it for me is the time freedom. So maybe you are right, Stephanie. Maybe that is the best freedom of them all, because I was like, whatever I have to do so that I don't have to be at a specific place at a specific time, I need to figure that out. And so here I am.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of an accidental entrepreneur this go around. I was, after my career break, women kept reaching out to me to ask, like, how can I do this too? I want to do this. How can I do this too? How can I do this too? And I was helping them, and I set up like actual business tools, like a Calendly I was paying for to help them do it. And then they would not show up to the meeting. Entrepreneurs. Hi, friends. Nobody's going to waste your time like a free client, like an unpaid person. Nobody will ever waste your time like someone who's not paying you. So after enough of those, I was like, oh no, I should charge for my time. And I think at first it was like $15 an hour, something that was like not worth putting pants on for, but it was at least like the person had some skin in the game. And once I had a actual fee associated with it, I don't think I've ever had a no-show again. Even when it was $15, I think I've ever had a no-show. So that's how I ended up in business. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this. And if I'm going to do it, $15 an hour, really, let's up the price. And then Stephanie roped me into something crazy for free. It was a free project. She wasted my time. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It seems like y'all were, I don't know, it kind of seems like this is where you were going to end up anyway, given the universe tends to unfold as it should.
Yeah.
So,
There is
y'all
another
doing the
timeline.
collaboration.
I don't know.
Would
There's
you say?
another timeline where Rashida is just on a pool floaty, right? And not worried about anybody's business. There is a different timeline out there.
But I get to live that timeline multiple times a year in this life.
Yes.
And that's nice. It's nice that I get to be like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. And this is what it is. And that's all there is to it. It's nice that, and this is a plug for entrepreneurship, like, and to Adelia's point earlier, I get to do what I want when I want to do it. And when I don't want to work, now, of course, because of Exodus Summit, I can't say this in September. I can't tell Stephanie late September, I'll be on a pool floaty, right? Bye-bye. I got a cocktail in my hand. I'll see you in a couple months. But for 9 months out of the year, I get to say, what do I want to do with my time this week, next month? And I get to choose whether that is actually sit down and work on my business or whether it is lay in a pool with a cocktail in my hand. And that's never a life I could have imagined before I understood what freedom was and I experienced it and I saw women doing it. I did not know it was possible. Before I spoke to Stephanie, so I interviewed Stephanie while I was on my career break for one of my very first YouTube videos. I knew I wasn't the only person in the world who had done this, but I hadn't really seen women who looked like me who did it and talked about the experience of doing it. Now I see them talk, the ones who did it a long time ago, talking more freely about it. But when I was on my break, it just felt like a thing I was doing that I was going to stop doing soon. When I talked to Stephanie, it was like, oh no, this is the thing people can do. So even when I was doing it, it didn't feel like a long-term possibility. But in talking to Stephanie and seeing that she was doing it and she had like tools that she was using and sharing to help people doing it and talking to other people who were coming behind me who were calling me for advice to do it as well, I was like, oh no, this is I didn't realize it was sustainable. I didn't realize this was a sustainable way to live life because the women who were doing it and sustaining it either weren't talking about it or when you saw them, it was always attributed to someone else, right? Like, oh, she must have some kind of sponsor. She must have, right? That's what you see in like the little gossip blogs or whatever, like, oh, she, living her life, but blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like, this isn't, someone's watching this right now and saying, but it's different for me. And I want to tell you, it's different for all of us. It's different for all of us. We all come to this with different skills, with different talents, with different resources. But there's a way. I don't know what the way is for you, but there is a way to make it happen in your life. I promise you this. The Exodus Summit women will teach you that there is a way, but first you have to believe it's possible, right? Like I make posts, if I post on Instagram about something, about quitting my job, I get comments like, oh, that's impossible. Well, yeah, if you think it's impossible, it's not, it is going to be like, if you've told yourself, you've counted yourself out, right? You have told yourself you can never do it. And so you're not looking for the avenues in which it's possible, right? You're not putting money aside to prepare for the day you can't work anymore. You got to quit. Like today I have to quit, right? You're not putting money aside for that because you don't think it's possible to walk out of a job unless you're forced out or like you're sick or something, you know what I mean? Like if you tell yourself it's not possible for any reason, it's not going to be possible.
That's right.
You've got to believe that it can happen for you for it to happen for you. And I believe that about anything.
I think what anybody listening to this, we all have very different situations and how we ended up here. And the path we took to get here looks very different. And I think that's the other thing to remember. It's more, like you said, seeing somebody who looks like you that has done it means it's possible. You just got to figure out how to make it happen for you. Because I was following the FIRE movement, there had been talk, I had been exposed to people who were talking about frequent retirements. This idea, they weren't talking about sabbaticals, they were calling them retirements. And so this idea that, whether you were single, whether you partner, whether you have kids, that like you work for a little while, you save up some money, and then you take some time off. And so that idea I was open to, but I wasn't seeing anybody who looked like me.
Mhm.
And I think that's what made the difference for me, was seeing Stephanie. And I was like, this Black lady out here doing this, I could do this too. And no, I wasn't gonna go backpack around Southeast Asia and work on organic cricket farm. But you at least like planted the seed that you can live your life in such a way that it doesn't have to follow the pre-established rules that we've been taught since we were born. And it can look like whatever, like you were talking about, Rashida, that you really get to set your own schedule, except in September. Um, and like that's one way somebody can set up their life. Somebody could set up their life where there is never a point. They set up their business in such a way that there is never a time that they have to be somewhere and they have to be on. Like it can look different for everybody.
And as much as we're talking about setting up your business and setting up your life, I want you to know that there are a lot of women within the Exodus Summit family who are doing this with jobs, who have been, some of them ain't been back in America for like 3-4 years. And they have like JOBs from America that are still paying them, and they are working remotely and doing things wherever in the world they want to be, right? Because I don't know how, but not everybody hates their job. Some of them are like, it's paying and I want to stay. And I'm like, I don't get it, but good for you, right? That was not my story, but I love it for you. It's paying, you want to stay. Our community is full of women who are living those lives as well. Like, yes. And women who, like Steffi and I, Adelia, without putting too much business in the streets, we made these moves as single women, right? I know a lot of women who are making these moves with husbands, with children, with small children, with older children, with parents. And so it's not a one size fits all. And I will say that if you're looking at women and you're saying, I can't do it because I'm not like her, there's a woman who's exactly in the way that matters to you. There's a woman who's exactly like her. You just haven't met her yet. You may not be in community with her, and you need to find your way into a community. If this is what you want for your life, instead of saying it's not possible, go find the woman who tells you, who shows you that it's possible for you, because she's there. She's there. This conversation is happening a lot more now. A lot more women, a lot more Black women are being open about this, because the idea that like we have failed our community by not being home every Sunday, right, to cook family dinner is one that a lot of generations are shaking off. I'm hearing so many people complain about Gen X grandmas being a different kind of grandmas. Yes. And I'm like, what did you expect? Like, we've been tired.
Really, what did they expect? We've been taking care of folks since literally we were born.
We were never really taken care of. We've always been taking care of other people. Of course, we're different. This is our time to go live our life in the way that we want to live our life. And there's a woman out there just like you who can guide you if you get in community with her. That's right. So come on through the Exodus Summit. You're going to meet her. You're going to meet her. Yes.
All right. So we haven't really talked about the summit. We talked about it, but not like the details, the specifics. This is the 4th Exodus Summit.
Yes.
Which,
can you believe it? Isn't that funny?
No.
And I'm kind of like an outsider looking in. So I know y'all sit there and think like, wow, girl, can you believe this is the 4th year we're doing this? But I just remember the first summit. I remember how incredible it was. And I thought it was great. And then when y'all ultimately decided to do it again, I thought, I wonder how this year will be, because surely they cannot top what they did the year before. And this might sound like I'm blowing smoke up your ass here, but I really, and then homecoming happened and I was like, wow, they did it again. And then the same thing last year. And then Like, this is wild. And I guess it's wild because, like, I've never known people personally who were out here doing big things like this. This is wild to me. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think that for Stephanie and I'll speak for myself, but it doesn't feel like big things. It feels like we put one foot in front of the other and then we just see where we end up. And we're both a little delusional. So I think
Yes.
it helps. It helps to be a little
I think
delusional.
that helps a lot.
A little delusional in a different way, because we started the year by saying there's absolutely no way we can get one of the speakers we have. Like we thought about it and we were like, wouldn't this be wild? And then we were like, no, that's not gonna happen. And now she's on our flyer, right? Like, because one of us is always like, what if we just did this wild thing? And the other one is like, that sounds crazy, but let's try it anyway, right? And that's just how it goes. And so it seems like, for people who just get the news, right? Like we have some really incredible speakers this year. People who just get the news, it's like, oh my God, you guys did this. And I'm like, yeah, we did, but it was really just a series of meetings. Me and Stephanie at the computer, staring each other's face, talking through things weekly for a year, right? Like we meet weekly and we talk through things, and then we end up with this product that people love, but it doesn't, and I'm going to claim is revolutionary, but the process to get here isn't revolutionary. I think some of the process to get here is saying, if other people can do it, we can do it too. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if other people can put on these great events, ours is better. And that was about any event out there in the world. The Oscars, ours is better, right? But yeah, it does not feel like it's this, oh my God, I can't believe we created. Every once in a while, I'm like, I can't believe we did that work. But it doesn't feel like I can't believe we created it. And part of that is because the people who sign up to be involved with Exodus Summit are not signing up to be involved with Stephanie or I. Some of them to this day do not know our names. I guarantee they do not know our names. They know our audience.
That's right.
Right? They know our mission. They know our purpose. They don't know Rashida, Stephanie. If like you were like, oh my God, Rashida's so excited, they'd be like, who is that? And what are you talking about? Why are you in my inbox with this craziness? Right? They know who our women are, what they want to do, and like why they would be a great speaker for our audience. And so that's how it comes together. This is not the two of us like, we have made it. There's no, nobody cares. No. It's our pleasure to put it together and like create this platform. So
yes.
You want to say something?
Yeah. So like Tabitha Brown is a speaker at our summit this year. What we know now, I think what Rashida and I know now is that like, oh, she's also just a person, because people are we are all super excited about the speakers that we have coming. Mm-hmm. But it's also a reminder of like, oh yeah, she was once a person who made YouTube videos from her car, right? Now the world knows Tabitha Brown, and people get to be super excited that she's coming to the summit. And people assume that means that we are on some certain level of, I don't know what they think, but we're still the same people. We're still, and so it's a reminder that, oh, so that means Tabitha Brown is still just a person, right? Rachel Cargill, right? Dr. Joy. So it's really exciting. And it's also like a reminder that you can do amazing things and you can have an amazing impact as the person you are, right? You don't have to be born naturally superhuman like Beyonce. Okay. We can't be born Beyonce. We can be born us. Lots of the women who are speaking at the summit this year are women who have already had a tremendous impact within their communities or within the people that they serve. And they're still regular people, right? And that means if they can do it, we can do it too. Mm-hmm. We can have a business where we are in charge of our time, in charge of our location, in charge of our money, make an amazing impact out in the world and live and love our lives and still be us, still just be who we are, Mm-hmm. So it's been a nice reminder that, people who do big things are still regular people. That means we can do whatever.
Regular desires. It's reminded me that everyone is accessible, right? It just takes a little bit of work. Everyone is accessible, and part of having this relationship with people is the why, right? Like if I reached out to Rachel Cargill and was like, I want you to come talk to me and the homegirls about like snacks and naps, my favorite thing, she would probably be like, what if I didn't? Right? I don't know. But I don't, you know what I mean? There would have been less interest. Every person we have talked to, including our returning speakers, has said, oh, I like what you're doing, right? Our returning speakers were just like Libria Jones, Team Zekas, they all said, of course. Like no question, nothing. Yes, I'm back. Let's do this. And I think that goes not only to the amazing event that we host, but also to our amazing audience and the whys behind why we do it. Because, you know, Tabitha could be doing something else on Monday night besides talking to our people, but she's going to be there. She's going to show up. And Donna's going to be there too, smiling.
So how are you going to wear your hair, Rashida?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
I feel
it got me deep.
What?
Deep in thought. Feel like you're going to have to do something. Like some thought. There needs to be some thought and some planning that happens that.
I'm feeling the pressure.
I just now. Yeah. I wasn't feeling the pressure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But just now, I'm feeling the pressure.
I'm going to Sally's. I'm getting some rods. I'm doing something. Okay, girl. Just be prepared.
My Pilates studio is across the way from a lashes place, and yesterday I was like, when should I get lashes? Because I'm doing Pilates. I'm staring at this lash studio, and I'm like, we're the Summit. How about I don't show up looking raggedy? Should I get lashes? But the thing I love about it, and the thing we've told all our speakers, is it is a come as you are event. If you see some of these speakers in pajamas, don't get mad, because I told them, show up however you are. And that's what we want from our audience too, because in order to do this life, you do not have to be special. You do not have to appear any certain way. You do not have to present in a way to achieve freedom. And we want to model that for you. I may be in pajamas for Octavia Rahim's rest session. I will not be in pajamas the rest of the time. I need to get cute pajamas.
I'm going to be in a robe. Absolutely. Okay. Be prepared. Octavia is coming to rest with us. I'm going to be in a robe. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is the summit?
October 6th
we,
through 10th.
We haven't said that. October
6th through 10th.
9th. We do know.
She does know.
We do. Hilarious. October 6th through 9th, all online. All of the sessions are online.
Mm-hmm. Yes, all online. It is one for Friday is one partial day, and then the 7th, 8th, and 9th are full days. Full days Eastern Standard Time. West Coast, get ready to wake up a little bit early or watch a replay. Replays are available if you have an all access pass. Replays are available for a year. If you do not have an all access pass, replays are available for about 30 days, which is still very generous compared to most summits who are like, the summit has ended, your replay has ended too, goodbye, get out of here. Because we want the people who buy tickets to watch events, because how many times have you purchased either a ticket to something or a class or something, and you're like, I'll watch it later, and then later never happens. Mm-hmm. If later never happens, then the action never happens either. And the action is what's important. Inspiration is nice. Inspiration will take you far. Inspiration won't take you far enough. Like, it requires inspired action. And so we really want the people who buy tickets, the Black women who buy tickets to this event, to be inspired to action and take action. And so we have inspirational speakers and we have like action-based speakers. And we want you to listen to both of them and take action So 30 days for Weekend Pass. All Access Pass has 1 year. 1 year doesn't mean wait until month 11 to watch them videos, because you could have been free on month 4 if you'd watched them earlier.
We still get emails every few days like, oh, how do I can't find my login for the 2022 replays.
Yeah.
But like,
Once we
girl,
announced-
you got
once
3
we
weeks
announced
left. Hurry up.
We announced 2023 some, and people were like, oh, yes. What about 2022? We're like, yes, you can watch it, but don't be out here playing games.
So we've talked about the summit being transformational, and we've talked about wanting to reimagine our lives, right? Sometimes you need some individual time, attention, coaching for that reimagining to happen, because there's a lot of like messaging and programming that you need to actively work through. I had the privilege of being in a small group community with Adelia, where I saw women, including myself, like removing that programming in real time and reimagining their lives in real time. I want to talk a little bit about Reclaim the Retreat. The experience that I had in El Salvador was transformational. I'm a loner and a hermit, and it was so amazing to be in that community with those other women who were attending the retreat, and start a relationship that we can continue on. And we're coming up on our 6-month anniversary. I know it's, whatever. It's not an anniversary if it's 6 months, but we're going to call it a 6-month anniversary. But we got to see myself and the other women who attended that retreat really work things out, not just give lip service to a transformation or a change that they would love to have, not just hope and wish, but like work through it with the coaching from Adelia and Ivana, who I call Adelia now, and I'm sorry. Okay, y'all have one name now. I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix it. But through the coaching, through the community, through the resources, through the other people that they introduced us to, through the beauty and the scenery of El Salvador. It was an amazing experience. I know that the retreat is not only happening in El Salvador in 2024, but I do want to talk about that. So tell us a little bit about what someone should do to make sure that she can participate and feel what I felt.
First of all, I like that you mentioned it, not just because it's the retreat that I host, but I think a lot of folks look at you, Stephanie, and they think she has it all together. She's figured everything out. And all 3 of us here still continue to work with coaches to get coaching, to continue to learn. Like, it's not like one and you're done kind of thing. And so I think the retreats, the name really speaks to it, because we've been talking about in this conversation having the space and the time to think, to reimagine, to reclaim the stuff that you've kind of let fall by the wayside. And so that is what the retreats are all about. And you also talked about, inspiration is good. At a Reclaim the Retreat, we have fun. We have a lot of fun, lots of laughs. But you also get like the actionable things. You actually start taking steps toward having the life that you want. That was very, very important to us, that it just not be about let's come get together, have fun, have sisterhood and all that. But it was like, no, you leave the blue is what I need to do to start putting together the life that I want. So we're really excited that for 2024, we are going to be in new locations. We will be in El Salvador. We will be in Hawaii. We will be in Mexico. And we're very, very close to announcing I feel like it's a super duper extra special version of the retreat. We're not quite to the point where we say anything about it yet, but if you are a Black woman, this particular location and activities are going to really, really be meaningful to you. I can say that much. So, and I think the work we do in the retreat is an extension of the work that y'all are doing, that we're all doing individually, and that y'all are doing with the summit. Again, it's about getting Black women free.
It's one movement. It's a movement, right? It's one movement. Rachel Cargill has a reputation of talking about things in a different way than we do, but it's the same movement, right? We're in this together. Yeah. I was about to say we won't stop till it's done, but we're gonna stop a lot. We're gonna stop and rest.
But that's a good point too, though, Steph, is that like, while we want to help Black women to freedom, I can't help every Black woman to freedom. And every Black woman doesn't want to hear from me, right? And so we need other free Black women to lead the way, right? To also say, like, I'm going to talk openly about my experience so that someone can see me and see themselves in me and know that it's possible for them as well. And so this isn't the kind of thing, hopefully it's not the kind of thing that you do and that you hold tight to your chest and never share. Hopefully it's the kind of thing that like you do and yell it from the mountaintops. And of course, not everyone is going to be happy with that choice, because as a Black woman, you are here to serve, right? And so the people that you have stopped serving, whether they're people who know you or people who think they are owed your labor just by you existing, they're not going to be happy with this choice. The people aren't happy every day, and either it's going to be you or them, right? Like if you wanted to be in that old life or in the role that people say you're supposed to be in, you would be there. If you don't want to be there, it's probably because it doesn't make you happy. And so the idea that you're going to make people unhappy by making choices that make yourself happy is never more evident than it is for me in this sphere. Because strangers come out the woodworks talking about, why would you? Right? Like commonly, more frequently than actually makes sense, I hear the like, oh, this must be some like lesbian activities. And I'm like,
A cult. We're a cult of.
it's a bit of like, we get the lesbian cult accusation. And I'm like, okay, but what if we are, right? If we are a lesbian cult, but we're not forcing anyone to join or partake, why do you have a strong opinion about this? And if we're not, because we haven't ever given you that impression, I have never said anything to make you believe I am a lesbian, because I'm not. As far as I know, I am not. Because I've never said anything to give you that impression, why is it that you decided that's the reason that I don't want to live the prescribed life, right? But I don't fit in the box. There must be something you can point at, and it's, we're bringing all the lesbians to Mexico.
Well, the idea of Black women getting free is so crazy that they've got to find some crazy unusual way to label it, process it. And so a lesbian cult, why not?
Why not? Okay, sure.
It's so strange how the reactions are always really similar. Like, yeah. Are y'all having meetings? Are there meetings where you learn how to go after or attack Black women who are enjoying their lives?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there are y'all a cult? Is there a cult happening?
Right.
Where y'all get together and rehearse lines to try to interfere with Black women's freedom?
The other day, someone said there must be a handbook, and I'm like, imagine
handbook
that there's a handbook, but is this poorly written? That is this ineffective, right? You sat down together and created a script to talk crazy to us, and it still don't work. Like, having that little power, how sad. But yeah, no, you're not. being free, whoever you are in the world. And this isn't just for Black women, but for everyone, whoever you are, being free of the expectations that other people have placed on your life is going to make other people unhappy, even strangers. It's even going to make strangers unhappy, right? That's not your business. Like, they get to be happy or you get to be happy. In this situation, they have decided that what you do makes them unhappy. You probably didn't even know they were alive. It's okay, right? So either you get to be happy or they get to be happy. I'm not going back to my old life to make a stranger on the internet happy. I'm not going back to my old life because anybody I know thinks it would be a better fit for me. Because I like my current life, right? I like my current life. And so other people, even if they know me, even if it's in my family, them being unhappy about the choices I make isn't a sign to me that I'm doing something wrong. It's a sign to me that I'm making a significant decision in my life, right? And if that significant decision makes me happy, it doesn't matter how other people feel about it.
I think that is a good place for us to wrap this up. I kept y'all much longer than I was supposed to.
Not my fault.
You know what you didn't? You know what you didn't mention? Because I'm sure anyone who's watching this or listening to this is like, I need any of the Black women watching or listening to this are like, you know what, that Exodus Summit sounds like a place I need to be, but we didn't tell them how to
Get your tickets at exodussummit.com. Okay, exodussummit.com.
That's it.
We'll see you there.
Even if you're listening to this in the future, if you're listening to this after October 9th, which is the last day of the summit, I know this, you can get a replay. You can buy a ticket to get a replay. And because the information doesn't change if you're a day late, the information doesn't change if you're a month late, it doesn't change if you're a year late. If you want to get a remote job, Liberia Jones is going to be talking about getting remote jobs. If you want to make more money at your current job, Team Zika is talking about that. I don't really know what Tabitha Brown is talking about, but I'm going to be in the audience, baby. I'm going to be there to swoop it up, right?
I think she might talk about getting a clear vision for your life. Because one thing we know about her, she had a vision for her life and she held on to it, even when everybody, and I'm going to guess everybody was telling her, girl, give up. Give up. I hope that's what we'll talk about.
Okay. Yeah. So these are evergreen talks, right? These are evergreen talks. Like, maybe the tools Liberia is going to talk about in the 2023 summit are not the tools most people will be using in 2027. But is the internet going to exist in 2027 as we know it today? Who knows, right? Like, fundamentally, is life going to be, will there be aliens on Earth? Probably, right? I'm just trying to be as free as I can be between now and like mass destruction, please. And thank you. Them orcas not going to get me, right? Like, for now, I am free. That's all I got.
normally at the end of a podcast episode, I talk about takeaways and things like that. But really, I think everything that needs to be said has been said through the work that the three of us do, because we've been on this journey to our own freedom, be that time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. We've like made it our business to help other women get this freedom as well. So like I said, I think everything that needs to be said has been said. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I hope that I will be seeing some of you at the various Exodus Summit events that take place. There are often, happy hours and coffee chats and all that kind of stuff. I hope to see some of y'all there. And if you are interested in joining Ivana Robinson and I in February in El Salvador for the Reclaim the Retreat that is taking place then, you can get all the information you need at reclaimtheretreat.com. Thank you guys for everything, for listening, for sharing episodes, for the comments and the feedback that you leave. Thank you for all of it. Thank you for all of the support. Here we are in year 4 of this podcast. So I have a heart full of gratitude, and I just want to say thank you, everybody. Okay, until next time.